Okay, so today I thought I would take this little opportunity to have a look at what makes an altar. Okay, and this is in response to many people who have asked me what is on my altar, and you can see my altar, which is over yonder, and I'm gonna explain to you the difference between this kind of altar and just a more, shall I say, maybe a more general altar. Okay, so right now you probably don't have like a full vision of what is on this altar, and I'm going to keep it this way for right now because this is a shamanic altar, so it's a little bit different to I guess your daily or maybe crystal altar or even your angel altars. And it is very much live, although this one hasn't been open yet today, which is why I'm showing it to you. It does contain, you probably can make out that it contains a lot of crystals, and I'm going to be talking about that in just a minute. So there's energy, it's a particular altar which represents a cosmovision, okay? It's a shamanic altar, and it carries energy and it carries a current of energy, but it's also a very personal representation of energy. So that's why sometimes we don't broadcast them as widely as other types of altars. So you've seen before in my videos, I have a smaller altar that I set up for angel work, which contains a lot of crystals. And generally for my angel work, I also like to bring in fresh flowers, okay? And you may be aware that there's actually plants on my shamanic altar as well. So when you're building your altar, when you're putting together your altar, what are the things that you want to consider? And the first thing is probably going to be, what is your intent for this altar? Why do you need an altar? Right? Why are you drawn? So this is going to be the first thing to really think about. Do you want an altar to charge your crystals? Do you want an altar as a reminder of things that you hold dear? Maybe your ethics and your life choices. So the first altar that I had my little Buddha statue, this one, with some stones around it. And this was on my altar because that felt right for me, okay? That felt like the right thing to place on my altar at that time. And of course, now the middle of my altar has changed. But the ideas remain similar, okay? So think about what it is that you want to do with your altar. When you open your altar or when you go to your altar, do you want to be reminding you of you and your work? Or do you want to have this altar to remind you of your connection to all that is? Because you're going to be setting up a very different kind of altar if that's the case. And, you know, so your intention is going to be really important. So I'm going to try to cover how to go about setting up like a personal altar, where this is going to be very free form, okay? It's just going to be you choosing your pieces that represent something for you and just building that energy in and around your altar so that it means something and it reminds you of something when you come to work with it. The second part will be having a look at setting up an altar to honor and bring in the directions and honoring our relations, okay? So our relationship to the world outside of us, okay? So if you're setting up a personal altar, choose the pieces that are meaningful for you, to your spiritual journey and to your spiritual development, okay? So it could be that you have some favorite crystals that are going to make it on this altar, that are very potent for you and that you wish you could work more with. These are going to be perfect to place on your altar. One of the things that I always recommend that you have in some form is light, okay? So it could be just as simple as having a light, a tea light like this, and, you know, just having that on your altar. There's loads of different ones. I can be quite paranoid about setting everything alight, so I have crystal ones, and my crystal, I've got one fluorite candle holder, and you can see that it's quite a long way down into the hole before you meet the candle, okay? So quite a long way down there, and it's even further in the selenite candle holder, okay? And these are great because not only are they themselves carrying energy, but, you know, they are bringing that light and that luminosity into your altar. So we are kind of, you know, aware of the light, the spark in the world, the light in our heart, and, you know, sharing that light with others. So if that's important to you, maybe try to find a way to have some form of light on your altar. And then some people will put little bits of resin of incense on their altar because it's significant to them. Or it could be that if you don't have resin, some people just put down, let's see, I think I have resin and I have juniper, right? So I've got little bits of dried juniper because those are my pals, right? And then any crystal that you want to have some form of significance, okay? And I would say an offering to the altar. So whether it's a little cup with a bit of water in it, or maybe some tobacco or some plants, some herbs. You're not going to smoke the tobacco, you're just going to put it in a recipient as an offering. And now and again, you're going to change it, okay? So you're going to release it into the wild and you're going to have some more, or you're going to burn it during one of your fire ceremonies and you're going to bring in new energy, new offerings. So it could just be as simple as having a little cup with some water. I used to have, on my basic altar, I used to have like 3 recipients. One had water, one had oil. I can't remember. I think the third one had plants in it, okay? So be creative. See what you think, how you feel, what you think would constitute a really good offering. And the offering is there so that you commune with your altar, so that you don't just set it up and forget about it, okay? Another good way to commune with your altar is to revitalize it regularly. So if you have tingsha, you can play the tingsha over the altar, okay? Same if you have a singing bowl, you can play your singing bowl over your altar. You can chant whatever is of significance to you. You can play your singing bowls, so they're down here. And of course, I have a little bell. So when I want to wake up my altar, I play my little llama bell, okay? So these are inexpensive pieces of kit that you can buy readily. If you're really looking for something like that, let me know and I will let you know where to get it, because it's easy once you know. Okay. So that's kind of a personal altar. Bring your pieces together. What makes sense? What has significance to you? And how will you feed this altar? How will you make it a living thing so that you are constantly interacting with it, and that this becomes a relationship in order to build and release energy, okay? Because this is what an altar does as well, right? It's not just about putting some pretty pieces together. That's not an altar, okay? There's got to be an energy current in your altar. If you want to honor your relations, it's going to be a little bit different, because you're going to want to think about the directions and how they tie in to different things for you. So I'll give you an example. On my altar, I have earth at the bottom, and so that's why I have that big stone to represent earth. Okay, this is one that I went and found all on my own, so you can get out there, find yourself a stone to represent earth. You can find yourself a shell. This is a shell that I found to represent water and the moon. You can have a feather to represent spirit. Okay. And fire. Okay. Fire, which is your consciousness. Okay. Linking you into the consciousness, into the father, the male energies. And in the center, you might want to place something for the soul. Now, I'm not telling you how to build a shamanic altar just now. I'm just saying, you can tie these into directions, however these come out for you. Mine happen to be the earth is to the south, the water is to the west, the feather is in the north, and the light is in the east. Okay? But it could be that if you're matching up to the archangels, that your light is in the south, because that's Michael. It could be that your earth is in the north, because that's Uriel. So, and your water will still be in the west, because that's Gabriel in the west. So see how it ties in. It might not even tie in with the directions for you, okay? But see what it is that you want to honor. For me, honoring the elements and tying them in to our beings is an important thing as far as my altar is concerned. So that's why I have an altar that has the physical represented with the earth, that has the emotional represented with the water, the spirit represented with the feather, and the consciousness represented by the fire, and then the soul represented in the center by your centerpiece. Okay. So think about, if you're interested in that, going down that route, think about how that's going to work for you. And you can see that I've taken that further. Say with the feather, I don't just have a feather, but I have a flute, and the flute is it's the breath, right? We're still in the air element, right? So we've got the air up there. And then you've got loads of pieces that represent and have healing value, okay? So each of the direction has a healing piece, and each of the direction has also a power animal piece, okay, power animal healing piece, and then you have a diagonal line, okay, which brings in energy and that's a little bit different. But no, you don't have to stick to something like that. If you're interested in the Pachacuti Mesa, I can let you know where to get some documents to set up a mesa like this. But the first thing that you want to think is, well, how do I want my altar to be? Do I want it to be honoring the relations? Do I want it to be a full-blown shamanic altar? Do I want it to be a personal altar that I'm feeding and caring for and establishing the exchange with on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, okay? Think about that. If you're going for the elements and the relations, think about what you're going to put on. How are you going to go about finding the pieces? And it's a quest, right? It's a quest, putting it together, finding all the bits and pieces. It's really cool. I really enjoyed the process. What cloth are you going to put on? Okay, we always put on a cloth to kind of have a demarcation, right? So that's it. This is the altar. All right. And then, of course, if you are choosing to have an elemental altar or honoring your relation altar, how are you going to open it? How are you going to call upon those directions? And those of you that have taken the Shamanic course level 1 last year will have written, part of your work was to write a piece on how to honor the elements. Okay, so if you remember that, you should have that piece, and therefore that should be easier. So then you can chant or you can say those, and then you can feed your altar, light the light, maybe spray your altar, burn some incense around your altar. It's good fun, right? Working with an altar is really good fun. What happens is that it changes the energy in your room, and it also gives you a mirror of where you are at. And it's also sending back to you that you are not alone and you are a luminous being. You know, you are a being of light and with energy forever circulating, and it's kind of sending you that back all the time. So it's always reinforcing your luminous being. Okay, maybe that's enough for now. You can start to figure out which road you want to go down. And if you do have questions, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you with that. And I wish you good luck figuring out what kind of altar you want to establish, and also establishing that relationship with the altar. Okay, thank you. Namaste.